Hello, everybody. I'm reporting from my bed. I'm a little sick, so I got my nice little hot cup of tea. And in this episode or this video, I wanted to talk about the new generations. And there was this idea I had earlier when I was thinking about how the new generations. What? Why? I have a question. First of all, why is it that the generations with the new ideas are always the young generations? Why can't old people or older generations have new ideas? Why does it always have to be the young people? And I was thinking that young people, they normally have access to a lot of unknown information. Like everybody can identify with, like, when you talk to like a teenager or even a kid, and they show you something that you had never even heard about, right? And it exists, it's out there. So kids and teenagers, they have access to, like, hidden information, I guess, information that older people don't really have access to. And I think the problem is that we have to be aware that there is a moment in our life that defines us, which is basically from, I don't know, say when you're from, like, when you're 7, 8, 9, all the way until you're like probably 18, 19, right? Like those 12 years, I would say, are going to define you as a human being. And everything or everything you learn and you pick up on during those years are the things that you're going to carry on the rest of your life. So I think that's, we have to be aware of that, because that's what makes it difficult for older generations to have new ideas. I think you can, like, if we look at it from a decades perspective, when you're, the music, for example, that you grow up on when you're a kid, from year 0 until 10, from year 11 until like 20, from year 20 until 30, right? That's the music that's going to stick with you. And then I think the music that you start to hear maybe when you're in your 30s or your 40s, the new music that's coming out is the music, and especially when you're in your 50s, I think that's the music that you're not gonna like, the music that you're gonna criticize, because we see this. It's a very common archetype, or a very common situation in which you have an older person, let's say 60, 70, and they're complaining about the young generation, right? Or like whatever it is. In the 70s it was rock and roll, then it was rap in the 90s. Now it's like TikTok and social media and just weird stuff. And but that's the thing. They are always going to be, the older generations. And I say, instead of complaining, why don't you get some new ideas, right? And it's kind of scary if you really think about it, because as a society and as a civilization, I think we need to have order, right? Like, we go from one generation to the next. It's really hard to define a generation. They say, according to the Bible, it's 40 years. But now we have new generations like every 2 years, like Generation Alpha, Generation Z, Generation, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I don't know. It's getting crazy with the generations, but like we've been around for like 20 years in this century, in this millennium. So I think, all of us are the same. There's really no difference. There are people, there are babies and kids that are growing, but they're we still don't know what they're going to be like. So I think older people need to become aware of this, and they need to also imagine and maybe work towards new ideas, right? Like don't get set in your ways as you get older. I think that's a tragedy, because what ends up happening is that you're gonna be like 50, 60, and then you're gonna look at teenagers when you're 50 or 60, and you're gonna be like, man, those kids are crazy. Because you're not gonna agree with their ideals or their music or their lifestyle or their clothes or whatever they got going on during that time. um, and teenagers, they have all that spontaneity, and that they create things and everything, and they get all crazy, which is kind of weird if you think about it, because you would expect a grown adult to be, coming up with new ideas, since the adult has lived decades. And teenagers have only been around for like, not even 20 years, and they're already coming out with stuff, with new ideas and everything. And it might be because they're coming from the unconscious. And if they're coming from the unconscious, well, that's where all the ideas are, right? That's where all the potential is. So that might explain that. And as you get older and you become more acquainted with your ways and with life, you actually dumb down, you actually dull down, and you actually quit your creative side. So I think we should become aware of that, because it's kind of paradoxical. I'm going to say it again. I would be expecting adults, grown adults, and especially older people to be coming up with the new ideas, and instead you got teenagers doing it. So that's just kind of weird. And but yeah, teenagers, I think they also have to know their limits, so they can't be going around like, saying, oh yeah, like this is the way things should be. And they bring a lot to the table, because they are the ones that get things rolling. They get the ball rolling in certain ways to make changes to the world, to make an impact, a lasting impact, and to change things for the better. um but I mean, I'm gonna say, like, yeah, they shouldn't, be arrogant about it or pretend they know better. But they're gonna be kids. I was once a teenager, and I was just like that, right? I think we were all teenagers, and we were all like that. So that's not really something that you can stop. So that's all I got for this video. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you in the next one when I'm not so sick.